Before I make a few remarks about the main topic, I do want to just take a moment to express my condolences to the government and people of India for the June 2nd train crash in Odisha and the tragic loss of life. As we have said many times, but you can't say it too often, the United States stands with the people of India as it recovers from this terrible tragedy. As by now everyone knows, in just 8 days, the President and First Lady will have the honor to receive the Prime Minister of India to the White House for an official state visit and dinner. That's only the third such occasion of this administration, and I can tell you from having spoken with the President about it just today how much he's looking forward to it, how much attention to detail this is getting at the very highest levels of our government. And as good evidence of that, as we gather here, as I know all of you know, my boss, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, and other senior White House officials are themselves in New Delhi for meetings with Prime Minister Modi, for National Security Advisor Doval, with the Minister of External Affairs Jaishankar, and other senior officials to review progress, deliverables, and everything else related to this historic visit. And to further the work of our governments to deepen strategic convergence, strengthen our policy alignment, and elevate and expand strategic technology and defense industrial cooperation, which are becoming so essential to the relationship between our two countries, among many other priorities. Last week, I had the opportunity to meet in Washington with Indian Foreign Secretary Vinay Quatra, who reminded me that in the span of just a few short weeks, we will have had visits to New Delhi by the U.S. Secretary of Defense and National Security Advisor, and then obviously a visit to Washington by the Prime Minister of India, which just says an incredible amount about the importance of this partnership and this relationship and how committed each of us are to it and to each other. After years of strengthening ties across administrations, the U.S.-India partnership is deeper and more expansive than ever, and we really believe that. We now look instinctively to each other and work cooperatively to uphold a free and open Indo-Pacific, to drive innovation, and to jointly tackle global challenges. As the world's oldest and largest democracies, India and the United States share a deep bond. From the democratic values that define us and the breakthrough innovations that we drive together to the ties of family, history, and heritage that unite our people, we really are natural partners. And I believe that we're ready to meet the challenges and seize the opportunities of this unique moment that we're in. Together and working with other like-minded partners, our countries will shape the future, working towards a world that is more open, more prosperous, more secure, more stable, and more resilient. And I'll just offer a brief overview of the highlights, as we see them, of the partnership that we are building and growing and strengthening with India. First, our major defense partnership. So our two countries consult regularly to assess regional developments and put in place an architecture to cooperate more closely through joint exercises, information sharing, logistics networks, and interoperable communication systems. We continue to strengthen India's status as major defense partner through defense industrial cooperation that co-develops and co-produces important military capabilities for both of our countries. Second, our strategic technology partnership. I know you're all aware of our path-breaking initiative on critical and emerging technologies, or ICET. We like acronyms, which we inaugurated in this very room just under 5 months ago, and which is already catalyzing government, business, and university cooperation in defense, space, semiconductors, advanced telecommunications, biotechnology, and emerging technologies like AI and quantum to foster an open, accessible, and secure technology ecosystem. This technology ecosystem in areas such as Open RAN and 5G will offer other countries beyond just the U.S. and India, advanced communications alternatives that are consistent with our shared democratic values, a case each of us is making with our partners around the world. Third is our work together on the clean energy transition. The United States and India share a common vision to decarbonize our economies and deploy clean energy, which is obviously reflected in both of our countries' 2030 targets for climate action and clean energy. No country's clean energy transition will be more consequential to the world than India's. And together, we are pushing each other to develop and deploy innovative solutions that will strengthen climate security, expand peaceful uses of civil nuclear energy and unlock climate finance solutions to mobilize the information, the technologies, and the resources we need to create the clean energy economy of the future. Fourth, as two of the world's foremost centers of innovation, we are driving global prosperity together. Bilateral trade exceeded $191 billion in 2022. Many of the people in this room were probably partly responsible for that. And that nearly doubles the total from 2014. And India's G20 presidency, which is obviously underway this year, has brought renewed focus on strengthening multilateralism and international cooperation to tackle global challenges, achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and is also laying a foundation for a strong, sustainable, balanced, and inclusive growth. Fifth, linking our people more closely together. So we are welcoming new education partnerships and taking steps to support the growing demand for travel between our countries. U.S. Mission India last year issued 125,000 visas to Indian students, which was a record. And Indian students are on pace soon to become the largest foreign student community in the United States. I should also say our relationship is also grounded in the values that are cherished by both our people and our founders: democracy, pluralism, tolerance, openness, and respect for human rights. These enable us to work together and to work together with civil societies and with NGOs to build a more resilient, more peaceful, more secure democratic societies and a more peaceful, more resilient, more secure world. And we maintain an ongoing dialogue on human rights, on freedom of the press, because our relationship is strong and mature enough to engage even on sensitive topics, and because as the world's two largest democracies, it is central to who we are. We want this visit that is coming up to take U.S.-India ties to an even higher level, a future where U.S. and Indian astronauts are on joint missions in space to explore our universe, a future where our universities are exchanging more students in science and engineering and are doing cutting-edge research together in the areas that will define the world economy this century, a future where our nations succeed in building resilient semiconductor supply chains, a future where we co-develop and co-produce critical defense systems not only for our countries but for the world. President Biden often says, in fact, I heard him say it just tonight when talking to the chiefs of mission from the United States who are assembled from around the world, that our world stands at an inflection point. The U.S. and India are choosing to work together to seize that moment, to create a more prosperous, secure, and healthy world. And I want to leave you with maybe the most important thing, which is to thank all of you for your partnership in this endeavor, which we truly are in together. So thank you very much.
डायबिटीज कंट्रोल करने के लिए आपने इतने स्टेप्स उठाए।
नो थैंक्स।
तो हमने भी आपके लिए एक कदम बढ़ाया। बजाज अलियांज लाइफ इंश्योरेंस प्रेजेंट्स डायबिटिक टर्म प्लान, इंडियाज ओनली टर्म प्लान एक्सक्लूसिवली डिजाइन फॉर डायबिटिक्स। ये प्लान आपको हेल्दी लाइफस्टाइल अपनाने पर रिन्यूअल प्रीमियम्स पे रिडक्शन देता है।
A good real estate project is timeless, legacy for future generation. But the time to shine is today. If your project is your pride, then nominate it today for India's most prestigious real estate award.
R.R. Kabel presents CNBC-TV18 Real Estate Awards, 14 years of excellence, powered by News 18 Network. To nominate, visit realestateawards.co.in or call. Great Place to Work India recognizes committed leadership, resilience, and for all mindset as the true mark of leaders who drive transformation for growth and impact. Join us as we honor such nation builders and for the first time ever recognize India's most trusted leaders. Great Place to Work India presents India's best employers among nation builders and India's most trusted leaders.
जिसको देखो दे रहे हैं लोन लोन लोन, और इसको उसको सबको चाहिए लोन लोन लोन।
जो घर लेना हो ले ले लोन, ले ले लोन। गोल्ड लोन लेना हो ले ले लोन, ले ले लोन। बिजनेस बढ़ाना हो ले ले लोन, ले
तो बोल।
कई छुपी शर्तों का झोल।
अरे स्टॉप, अब गोल गोल को छोड़, सुन सीधी बात के बोल। अब हर सपना होगा पूरा जो तेरा है अधूरा, और IIFL फाइनेंस पे है मेरा भरोसा पूरा। गोल से लेकर बिजनेस, पर्सनल से लेकर होम, हर जरूरत को मिलेगा लोन। तो हुआ ना यही सही लोन। IIFL फाइनेंस करता है सीधी बात।
While we in India take great care to keep our homes and workplaces clean, we often ignore the cleanliness of our toilets. But keeping our toilets clean is extremely important to ensure good health for all. Cleaning toilets and following proper toilet etiquette ensures that we protect ourselves and our loved ones from diseases. We need to come together as a society to change our behavior. Let's work collectively to ensure we are leaving toilets clean for the next person.
हार्पिक न्यूज 18 मिशन स्वच्छता और पानी। हेल्दी हम जब साफ रखे टॉयलेट हरदम।
HSBC presents CNBC-TV18 Future Female Forward, the Women's Collective.
Presented by HSBC.
Co-presented by HCL Tech.
Knowledge partner Deloitte. Industry partner Vicky. Associate partner Reliance Industries Limited.
Delivery. There is a large block. Understand in the block deal, the leading private equity investor was a seller. BHEL is buzzing in trade today, and there is an anticipation of a large order coming for BHEL very soon. The promoter entity of Adani Group, understand from sources, were on the selling side, and a large leading US-based fund was a buyer in today's block. We have confirmation of both. The promoter entities are sold and have raised 15,500 crores by selling stake in the 4 group companies, and the buyer is GQG Partners.
Tune in to NSE Closing Bell as we spot deals before they happen, decode their impact on stock prices, and help you stay ahead of the markets. CNBC-TV18. Follow the leader. From David to Goliath. From the smallest business ventures to multi-million-dollar global corporations. Meet the movers and shakers. Today's newsmakers. And tomorrow's leaders. Understand what makes markets move, how companies make quantum leaps, and how giant corporations stay ahead. Get the biggest business stories of the day, power-packed into 30 minutes. On Business 360 at these times.
Brought to you by
Black Dog Soda. Savor the pause.
Mr. Finer, many thanks for those opening remarks and for giving us a very comprehensive view of what the priorities are in the areas of partnership between both India and the US. You said that the relationship is much more deeper and more expansive today. Previously, you've called the US-India relationship amongst the most consequential and one that retains the greatest potential to evolve, strengthen and improve. As you look ahead, where do you believe most progress has been made? Where is most convergence been achieved? And where do you believe more work needs to be done?
So what I think is extraordinary about the U.S.-India relationship, and it's captured in the comment that you quoted from, is that it is both so important currently to each of our interests and our work around the world, but also where we have so much potential to go even further together. And I think both countries have recognized that. But if you look back and review what we have been able to achieve just in the last couple of years, and I'll just point to a few examples that I think really illustrate this, things that we never had the opportunity or had the will to do in the past together. The Quad vaccine partnership during the worst phases of the COVID pandemic and the unique capabilities that India brought to bear toward that effort is one example that I think we will look to for quite some time and that is going to continue to pay dividends for the world. It is really, I think, in many ways, the fact that we have been able to expand the agenda of the U.S.-India bilateral relationship to these global issues. We obviously have a range of bilateral issues like any two countries do to work together, but that as we each develop our capacities to kind of take on these global challenges, the fact that we are able to get on the same page and work on them together, the pandemic being a key example, the deepening sort of strategic alignment, especially in security in the Indo-Pacific region, these are areas of the relationship that we are still developing, that we are still improving, that we are still enhancing, and that were just frankly not front and center on the agenda a decade ago, and very excited to see where these go over the course of the next decade.
You know, speaking about the future and areas of potential partnership as well as excitement in your words, you talked about the defense partnership, you talked about ISAT as well. How significant is it going to be for India and the US to work together on emerging and critical technologies? And I'll ask you this in the context of the fact that, you know, we've had the defense partner status since 2016. Do you believe that this is an inflection point in the defense as well as the critical technology relationship that the two countries enjoy?
Yes, look, I think if we had to pick two core areas where both the most progress has been made in recent years and where we believe there is still so much more progress yet to come, it would be in the areas of our defense partnership and our partnership on critical and emerging technologies. Since you asked about technology and about ISAT, I mean, I should say this was an obvious area of partnership for two countries that have such a kind of deep and abiding commitment to cutting-edge scientific research, to innovation, and to technology, and that are fundamentally free and open societies, and so share a set of values that are being applied, again, to this emerging technology ecosystem that I spoke about. And ISAT is going to be the guiding force to set an agenda for that work, to organize it, to coordinate it, and to bring to bear not just all the tools that exist in each of our governments, which are formidable and important, but all the tools that exist in our societies well beyond governments, whether you're talking about universities or other research institutions. It is a not very well-kept secret that probably the greatest strategic assets of both the United States and India are our people. And so there is very little, I think, that we cannot achieve together in this area if we direct our forces together.
Let me talk a little bit about the geopolitical reframing that's currently underway, and of course, you know, whether it's China independent of Russia or China and Russia together, and that of course is something that the US and India are looking at this point in time. We've had the 2+2 ministerials, we've got several working groups that are working on a whole host of strategic issues at this point in time. Where do you believe we need to prioritize? What should the focus be in the context of this reframing that's taking place?
So I think this is an area where it's really important to look at how far the United States and India have come in this regard. People who have worked on the US-India relationship, not just for a few years, but for decades, I think would have been hard-pressed to predict that we would have been sitting at a table like this or preparing for a visit like the one that will take place just across the park very soon, where a significant focus would be on the strategic alignment in geopolitics of the United States and India. That was not particularly foreseeable a generation or two earlier, and yet here we are with a much deepening, significantly deepening strategic convergence. And by the way, not just a strategic convergence in the Indo-Pacific region, but on global issues as well. This does not mean the United States and India are going to agree on absolutely everything. You know, it is clear that there are aspects of the current geopolitical environment where we differ and where we are able to have direct and clear conversations on topics, including topics like the Russia-Ukraine war, where there are areas of disagreement, but also areas of very clear alignment. And here I would point to India's repeated commitment, and I expect you will see it again next week, that the rules-based international order has to be defended, including concepts like sovereignty and the territorial integrity of nations, and that violations of law are just fundamentally not acceptable. So we have developed the kind of mature relationship where we can move forward together in areas where we completely see eye to eye, where we can discuss in a candid and direct way without it emerging into some sort of crisis, areas where we do not 100% agree, like no two nations do. Frankly, I think that, if anything, is the area in which the United States-India relationship has evolved the most and the most positively over time.
Well, that's good to hear. You know, you were talking about rules-based relations and groupings, and I want to ask you about the Quad as well as the IPF and the role and significance of India within these groupings and within the framework.
just taking a step back, this is an administration, President Biden's administration, that has, from the very minute we got here, said that our approach to the world and our approach to foreign policy is going to begin with our alliances and our partnerships with key countries around the world. We think, and I don't mean this as a political statement in any way, that we have a fundamentally different view of that than did our predecessors, where we see our alliances, our partnerships, we see international institutions, we see international agreements not as a burden on the United States, but as something fundamentally different, something that enables us to advance our interests in ways that we otherwise could not. And it is in that frame, with that frame of mind, that we come to the U.S.-India relationship and where we see India as such a consequential and important partner for the United States. That means finding ways to deepen that cooperation and finding ways to expand on it, finding new formats through which to pursue it. The Quad existed before this administration. It was not something that we invented, but we elevated it to the head of state level, which has given it new lift and new life and, frankly, new capacity inside each of our systems to really achieve and deliver and be consequential for our people and globally. IPEF is another example of a new format that we have pioneered in this administration to try to advance economic prosperity across the Indo-Pacific region and deepen our ties economically between the United States and the countries of the Indo-Pacific. And India is at the very core of both.
Let me end then by asking you about what everyone here is talking about, and that is the upcoming visit. Prime Minister Modi is going to be here meeting with President Biden. What's the expectation? What's the hope? What do you believe could be the best outcome of this visit?
There are going to be hundreds and hundreds of outcomes of this visit, which you will see in press releases and fact sheets and speeches. But honestly, I think as important as any of that, and I think the main message that we are looking to convey is that this is a relationship of strategic consequence and positive strategic consequence for the world. Again, we are not trying to paper over the fact that we have differences. We think we are much more deeply aligned and significantly converging with each other on innumerable global issues and on innumerable ways that we can benefit each of our populations. And I think what you will see when Prime Minister Modi comes and is able to spend some time with President Biden in this setting, a modern relationship between two significant countries that will benefit their own people and broadly will be beneficial to the world.
Jonathan Pineth, many thanks for your comments today and for giving us a sense of what the future looks like as far as the India-US partnership and relationship is concerned. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause.
Right, that was Shereen Bhan in conversation with Jonathan Finer, the Deputy National Security Advisor to the White House. Also, Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor, is in New Delhi ahead of Prime Minister Modi's US state visit. He met a select group of journalists and made some very important comments about what's on the table when Prime Minister Modi meets President Biden next week. Remember, this will be only the third state visit that President Biden will host during his tenure, and Prime Minister Modi will be reaching the United States on the 20th. Jake Sullivan told us that this visit is going to be truly historic and will lead to substantial announcements and serious deliverables on critical technology, defense and trade as well. There will be an announcement on semiconductor supply chains as early as next week. So during this visit, we will see an agreement on semiconductor supply chains. What this will entail? Well, Jake Sullivan has said that US is putting everything possible behind semiconductor manufacturing in India. US would like to contribute to the growth of semiconductor industry in India and also build talent and expertise. So there possibly would be outcomes where there would be collaboration between US research institutions, academic institutions, companies, startups on how to transfer technology, how to train the Indian workforce, build talent when it comes to semiconductor design, packaging and manufacturing as well. So we're really looking at the whole gamut of the relationship when it comes to semiconductors, not just at one particular aspect. On the GE jet engine deal, Jake Sullivan said that this would be an exquisite deal, which would be important for the transfer of technology. President Biden has asked for removal of all obstacles to deepen defense technology cooperation with India, and Biden administration is also working on removing regulatory barriers to defense exports to India through executive actions. There are also certain legislative changes which would be needed in order to transfer technology to India and have a stronger defense partnership. Jake Sullivan said that this visit of Prime Minister Modi would pave the way for more congressional or legislative changes in the Indo-US defense partnership as well. The progress on jet engines would be very crucial for cooperation in other aspects of defense technology and defense production, and US and India are also discussing sale of other defense equipment, including unmanned aerial vehicles. So let's keep an eye out for what happens during the Prime Minister's visit to New York and Washington, D.C. But clearly, big agreements, big deliverables on semiconductors and the defense sector on the cards. With that, it's a wrap on this special broadcast. More news and updates on the other side, right here on CNBC.